Inner Expeditions podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Inner Expeditions podcast. My name is, of course, Aaron Harvey. Welcome back to the show. Great to have everyone here. How you all feeling out there? Hopefully you're feeling good and ready for another new episode of the show, which I'm really excited to share with you all. This week's guest is a lady named Kirsty Fleming, who now resides in Exmouth, but spent time from her university days through to major part of her career as a world-class and elite-level rower in the women's lightweight classes. So Kirsty's coming to talk to us today. Really great episode. Looking forward to sharing it with you, as Kirsty spent a lot of time through, I guess, the early to late 2000s in and around the World Championship Australian sides, as well as being included in the Olympic teams in the women's lightweight classes of the double sculls and I think the quad sculls as well, but mainly focusing on the double sculls. So a big part of that is obviously preparing in 4-year cycles for Olympics and those sorts of things. But what happened to Kirsty preparing for the 2008 Beijing Olympics was that she had a major car accident where she was actually struck cycling on the highway by a car doing 110 on the open road. And while she was preparing to get into that Olympic side, her plans were completely wiped out and pushed aside by this pretty major life-changing event. So she's going to talk about that, what it took to get herself to the level of, being an elite athlete, and how she overcome that life-changing situation to rebuild herself and ultimately get back into the Olympic team to be available for selection, which is, all in all, this is an incredible story, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you all pretty shortly. So yeah, please get comfy, get ready for this episode. I've been really excited to share this one with you for a while, and really glad you guys can get the chance to have a listen to this one. So let's check it out. Okay, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. We are here today with Kirsty Fleming. Kirsty's got a pretty incredible story, which we are going to get into very soon. But I just want to say big thanks, Kirsty, for coming in, giving me your time for this show. I'm really looking forward to sharing your story.
Thanks, Aaron. I am so flattered to be here. Very excited and quite amazed. A little town of Exmouth in the northwest of WA, how many people have got really amazing stories out there or have done things in their lives that a lot of people don't know about. And but everyone's got a story. But I'm really flattered to have been asked to be on your show.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I'd kind of heard, I've sort of known you, sort of see you around town, and I see you cycling everywhere, and I just sort of thought that looks like someone I sort of need to catch up with. And then a few people sort of were telling me about, what you'd done in the past, and I think, some people thought you were an Olympic cyclist or an international cyclist. So I was like, well, okay, I'm just going to I thought I saw you at the one day in town, and I thought I'm just going to sort of have a quick chat and see how accurate these talks are. So it was great to bump into you, and like I said, I'm just incredibly humbled that you've been really accommodating for me on the show so far. So it's been nice already to get to know you and having some chats already. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I could talk about it all day. we could probably talk about running and rowing and cycling all day. It's just an infectious fitness, and I'm a self-confessed fitness addict and have been for a long time. And you do what makes you happy, and you try and find happiness in whatever path you choose. And for me, my journey started a long time ago, but you said there's a bit of misconception out there that I was an Olympic cyclist or something, but I was actually a career rower and made the Australian rowing team and rowed and was in the Olympic squad for about 7 years, and went to 2 world champs representing Australia. And the cycling really came wanting to fill that tremendous gap or void in your life when you retire from something that you've been committed to for a really long time. And I had done a lot of running, but the body doesn't stand up to it as well as it used to. So, and we used to do a lot of cycling and cross training for rowing. So cycling and mountain biking, or road cycling and mountain biking, seemed, for me, filled a gap and, fed that addiction. And barring injury, hopefully I can get away with quite a few more years of it to keep going, and it makes me happy, and I think that's really important in people's lives. Find something that makes you happy and do it for as long as you can. Yeah.
I know, I see you riding all over the place, and so many people in town do, so I think that's probably where incredible cyclists, which I've no doubt, after people change from one sport to another at a high level, the workload that you have to put in, so I'd imagine it would be a reasonably sort of easier step across for you.
Yeah, certainly when I was rowing, it was a life decision. It wasn't just it was my career. I was married to rowing it was my life for 15 years. I started really late for rowing. Most people start rowing when they're at school, but I grew up obviously in New Zealand in a rural area where that just wasn't a consideration at all, and I didn't start rowing until I went to university actually, and it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't enough for me. I needed to get more serious. So in the holidays, I go back home and joined one of the local rowing clubs down there and started getting competitive on the local scene. And it just transpired from there. I just keep wanting more and more, and it really got to the point where I wanted to row for my country. And there was plenty of challenges along the road. Back then, and we're talking 1990s in New Zealand, there wasn't a lot of institute funding, so we ended up having to pay for our own equipment, funding all the trips and that, which meant having full-time job as well. So unless you were lucky enough to have incredibly supportive and wealthy parents or family and stuff like that. So it's a little bit, rowing in that respect is a little bit different to perhaps cycling or swimming at an elite level, where there's a lot more funding and you can do a lot of professional endorsement sort of things as well. So anyway, it got to the point where I was older, but I was I'd won quite a few New Zealand titles and was in the lightweight women's category. So along with working your ass off to get where you needed to be and committing 4 or 5 hours a day to training or whatever, you actually also had to maintain a weight to row in that category. So that was also another challenge, staying at a particular weight or losing weight to be able to race, etc., etc. But I got to the point where I wanted to row for New Zealand, but at that point New Zealand wasn't really supporting lightweight women's rowing. They were focusing on the big boats like the women's and the men's eights, because they're a popular sport. New Zealand, or a popular category, New Zealand had a lot of success with their men's eight, and historically I think they won the 72 Olympics and stuff like that. So they continued along that path, and New Zealand have done extremely well on an Olympic level in their rowing, through the 90s, 2000s, etc., etc. But anyway, so I'm like, if I don't want to be 40 or 45 or whatever and look back and think, what if I'd done something? What if I'd gone somewhere else? I really wanted to give it a go. So I ended up making some inquiries, and long story short, transferred or relocated to Tasmania, where there was a New Zealand coach that I didn't really know that well in New Zealand, but he became my coach in Tasmania, and I had a fantastic support coaching team there, and 10 years of really great times with a rowing family, and just living in Tassie, up North Tassie, was absolutely fantastic. So I did most of my rowing there and really ended up being in the top 5 or 6 in Australia in the first couple of years in the lightweight women's category, and Australia were world champions at the time, so you're mixing it with the best.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen there's you got like Marguerite Houston has been in there for a long time and stuff like that. So
and the lightweight women's program at that point was in Adelaide. So my choices were to go to Adelaide and row with them and that, but a coach in Tassie said, if you go over there, you're probably going to be on the outer. We'll train you here, mix in with our guys and all the rest of it, and we'll take you away. You'll be a member of the Institute of Sport, and we'll see how you go. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be awesome. It was a lot of hard work, but it was awesome, and I've got so many great memories. I was very lucky to have such a great support team, and ended up getting to the point where I was eligible to row in the lightweight women's 4 and potentially the lightweight women's double scull, which is the Olympic boat. And but of course, to be able to do that, you have to become an Australian citizen. So that was another thing that had to sort of tick that box. So applied for permanent residency, applied to be an Australian citizen. So that all happened over a period of time, and then got selected for the 2004 lightweight women's quad that went to the world champs, and was in that reserve squad for the lightweight women's double for the Olympics in 2004.
Yeah, the Athens Olympics, I think it was then. Yeah, sure.
So interesting with lightweight rowing, especially lightweight women's rowing, at that point in time, there's actually only one Olympic boat. So there's 10 girls fighting for 2 spots kind of thing. Whereas if you're a heavyweight woman, you've got an 8, a 4, a quad, a double, a pair, a single. So a lot more opportunities to represent your country. But it made for exciting times, and you learn a lot. I learned so much about, and that's what's so good about rowing, I think, and other sports like that, great for kids. It teaches you motivation, discipline, and how to work as a team, but also how to work as an individual to get to that team level. And those are skills and things that you learn that I believe transpose into other areas of your life, like the work ethic that you get from a sport like rowing and at that level, and swimming and cycling and things like that are the same, because you spend so much of your day doing it that you just carry over skills from that and apply them in other aspects of your life. So I felt so lucky, and it was such an honour for me to represent my country, because it was never a consideration when I was younger to be able to do that. Like some people have ideas that, I'm gonna go to the Olympics, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, but it just sort of happened as a progression from doing university rowing, where it's all pretty much fun and a bit of a lark and all the rest of it, and a good chance to socialise and all that sort of thing, to getting a bit more serious. And then it's like, no, I don't just want to be New Zealand champion. I want to represent my country, and no, I don't. And then when you make the team, it's really funny. Is when you make the team, it's like, I feel so honoured and so privileged to make the team. But then that's not enough either. You actually want to win a medal at the World Champs, and then that's not enough either. You want to win the gold medal. You want to be a world champion. Yeah. And then if that's the way it's going, it's like, no, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to be an Olympian, and then you want to be on the podium at the Olympics, because that's just the ultimate for an elite athlete. So I was very lucky, and lucky also because I travelled to places in the world or was given the opportunity through that, that I probably would never have been able to go to, or would never have thought about going to.
Yeah.
And this is all with your team and the Australian rowing team and that, so it was like another family. And it was just, I've got so many happy memories. I'm very fortunate, but it was also a lot of hard work.
Yeah,
it's like bittersweet sort of thing. So that was awesome. And then, of course, 2005, so after every Olympic cycle, everyone starts regrouping and they start looking forward to the next 4 years. So the next 4 years or 3 years is looking forward to 2008. So you have people that retire, etc., etc. So, of course, I wanted to go to the 2008 Olympics by this point in the lightweight women's double scull. So I was fortunate enough to be selected in that Olympic boat for the 2005 World Champs. So that was, and had to relocate to Adelaide to train there because that's where, with the institute there, and then would pop up to Canberra every now and then and do a bit of time trialling up there, blah, blah, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and,
you even see it when you look at results and stuff, like international Australian results, and that shows you where your clubs are from or your state's from. It's so heavily loaded with people from South Australia. So
and they were
really
big in the cycling and the velodrome cycling at the same stage. So we were training with those guys in the gym, and that was amazing, looking at those guys and how they were training. And it was just like it blows you away. It was really interesting because I always sort of thought, oh, little old me, here I am being able to do this. And then I'd have younger kids coming up to me and going, oh my God, when you're down back in Tassie, it's like, oh, we just think you're amazing and all the rest of it. But then when I'm at a selection regatta or something like that, and I see my hero or idol, it's hard to describe. But at the end of the day, we're all arms and legs, just like everybody else. It's really interesting, but I tend to digress. But
you were saying before how you're at uni, so you were studying, I think, to be a legal practitioner?
Yeah, so that was a weird story in itself. I never really thought I would go to university, but I originally wanted to go to art school, but I never got in. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I didn't really want a job. I didn't want to go straight out of school to a job. I'd had a holiday job for years, and I'm just like, oh, I can't see myself doing that at this point in time. So when I went to university, it was really cheap. It was almost free. Like there was no such thing as big fees for courses. So I was fortunate, you had your living expenses and just, small fees for courses, not like hundreds of tens of thousands of dollars or whatever.
Yeah.
So I ended up just picking a few subjects, and law studies was one of them. And it was really interesting because I'm sitting in a lecture theatre and there's about 700 people in this theatre, lecture hall. First legal studies. So this is a prerequisite to get into law school. And the lecturer says, look around you, look to your left, look to your right. One in four of you will make the cut. And it's just like, whoa. So basically, the first 200 or 180 grades, so 1, 2, 3, 4 from A+ right down to whatever are going to get in. So it's like, okay, all right. But I ended up really enjoying it, and I'm like, do you know what? I really want to do this. I really want to be a lawyer. I want to do this. So I committed to that, and I'd started a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology as well, so ended up finishing that because I only needed a couple of extra papers to go. So it was a bit of a heavy workload in the last year. So I ended out with a double degree in law and psychology. So it was really hard to go down the psychology path. Like you had to do a lot of postgraduate qualifications to get a decent career, make a decent career out of that.
Yeah, and you're rowing as well, right? So
so
you got a lot on.
Yeah, and but for me, so ended up going home and got a job in a law firm, and specifically never went down the criminal law court path because I knew it was going to take up quite a lot of time and mental energy and my life was rowing. So
Yeah.
for me, being a lawyer was a job and being a rower was my career. And that went right through until 2006, after the 2005 World Champs. So the 2005 World Champs, we were going, I was in the lightweight double with Marguerite, and we were going really well. We were getting gold medal times, and I'd sort of made a note to myself. I said, if I get on the podium, I'm going to retire. I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on with my life.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen that way. We won our heat. I think we got second in our semi, but there was some gear changes that were made and some conditions that didn't really suit us, and we ended up getting 5th or 6th in the final. It was actually devastating because things didn't go my way.
Yeah, you got this plan and you're envisaging things to go that way.
Yeah.
And sort of to recap and give people an idea, your distance is, I think it's 2,000 metres,
2,000
right?
metres, yeah.
And, a good time would be anything like sort of, low 7 minute to sort of high 6
You've done
minute
your
kind
homework.
of time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done this crash course on rowing.
You've
It's just
done
so,
your homework.
just so people are listening to get that idea. So, yeah.
And it doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're out there, like you have a race plan, you break the race down into stages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it depends on the course and where you're rowing and whether you're cold water, warm water, tailwinds, headwinds, all factors in, and that. So we did some slick times, man, and so we were all set for, but nothing's a done deal. It's never over till the fat lady sings, and it didn't work out, and I was absolutely devastated. Like, that was my whole life. So come back to Tassie. What am I going to do? All right, so, okay, I've got a law career here. I could do that, but I really couldn't see myself being a lawyer for the next 30 years. It just didn't really appeal to me. But
the drive for that succeeding was just
and so I was a bit disillusioned with the rowing. But so what happens with rowing is you do a series of pre-selection trials before the national champs. So you start in about October with pre-selection trials and time trials in your home state, and then they're all compiled, and then you'll go away to a national selection trial, and then you'll have the Australian Rowing Champs, which is a big regatta for selection trials in March.
Yeah.
I never did any of the pre-selection stuff because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but the championships that year, 2006, were in Tassie. So home ground, awful day that the final was on of the lightweight single scull.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting 3rd. And that didn't win, obviously that didn't win me the title. It got me on the podium, which was great. But what it meant, it was significant for me because I bet a lot of girls that had been pre-selected for the next World Champs or Olympic team.
So that would have been a good bounce back from the year before.
So we actually appealed to see whether I could actually go to the trials, but they said, no, you haven't done any of the prerequisites, so you're out. So I'm like, okay, right, I'm going to go again. I'm going to go next year. So I was quite excited about that. And then so part of my training, my off-season training was I used to live in a satellite suburb out of Launceston, about 30 k's away, so I used to bike to and from work. So I was biking home one night and on the main road and got hit by a van at 110 kilometres an hour. So that kind of put a spanner in the works for my plan as well. So came away with some major injuries from that.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So vertebral compression, so in the back, broken pelvis, arms, all that sort of thing. So very confronting, actually life-changing it was for me because I was lying in a hospital bed for 3 weeks wondering if I was ever going to row again, and a good chance that I knew I was probably going to walk. I was going to walk again, but beyond that.
Yeah.
So
that's, I mean, to think that in an instant, all of that work and everything you've based, your sort of short-term and even sort of mid-term life goals are just taken straight away.
Like
that's insane.
And it happens a bit, and you deal with it however you do. But for me, and a lot of elite athletes, like, it is your life. So you've got this. For me, I was at some point in the future was going to retire, but this brought it all forward, fast forwarded it a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with, oh my goodness, I'm not really that happy in my career. My relationship part of my life, I wasn't that happy with either. Yeah. And what am I going to do? My whole life could have just fallen apart. So
it must have been just massively confronting to just think that all of these things are it's just straight away. There's just what happens next.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, yeah, am I going to be able to row again? Let alone at the level that you've built all of these and worked so hard for. It just must have been just a huge.
And you see it with elite athletes like that. You commit 4 years of your life because that's your Olympic cycle, and you do put your life on hold, and then something will happen like a major injury, or it's just happened last year with COVID, no Olympics last year. Your whole training scheme is framed around that 3 to 4 year period.
Yeah.
And it's really quite devastating. It's like having someone really close to you die. There's this big hole, and you've got to work out how to fill it.
Yeah. And
it takes a long time to actually do that. And you talk and you see it. You talk to elite athletes, and the transition from that type of life to a regular life is really, really challenging. And we've seen it a lot with the swimmers at that level, how they come out and have said about the depression and anxiety and how their life sort of goes off the rails a bit. And it's completely understandable because
it'll be new to them, right? They've never lived in that way before with a mindset of getting to the highest level. Yeah, I guess.
So for me, I had a lot of time in that hospital bed trying to work out what to do.
And you can't move either, so which is what it's how you
it was
feel
so
yourself.
hard. And then so you finally you gradually get better, and you know the doctor tells you can do a little bit. So what happened about a week into that, you get fitted with this what they call a Boston brace, which is about a 10 mil perspex brace that they mould to your body that you have to wear when you're standing up all the time. So I had to wear that for 4 months after I came out of hospital. Yeah. And so the only thing I could really do was walk. Had to have some assistance, home help, showering and stuff like that for quite a while. Never went back to work for a while because I couldn't sit for more than a couple of hours a day for a really long time. Yeah. And so that was really hard as well. And then I decided that I wanted to row again. I wasn't ready to give it up. So it took 18 months for me to get back in the boat. Wow. So I had a really great medical team. I was very, very lucky. But it was a lot of hard work. And 18 months, and I got back in the boat, and I literally took about 10 strokes and just burst into tears because I was so happy to actually be able to go for 10 strokes,
get
sort
back
of thing, after not knowing whether I could or not. And I remember my mum and stepfather came over at the time just to see if I was okay and stuff because they still live in New Zealand. And my stepfather said, "You realise that you may never be able to row again?" I said, "Yeah, I know." But in my head I was going, "You watch, I will." And I think that's a power. It's a mind thing, I believe, that if you set your mind to do something and you really, really want to do it, like you're really committed to doing it, you will do it. Yeah. And you see it. A lot of people have got some amazing stories, and like I've got a few friends, and as you get older, it happens more and more that go through the cancer battle and things like that. And people like that are just, you see they set their mind to it and they commit to the treatment. And I've been fortunate enough that most of those friends have come through the other side and survived. And those, though, that's another story in itself. You know, like what the mind can do, I think is incredible.
Well, you had an injury. It's not like an injury from the sport, like athletes get injuries with tendons and stuff like that. But you've had a significant accident. What injuries did you have from the accident?
From the accident. So with my back, it was a vertebral compression. So it's basically what that means is if someone stood you upside down and dropped you on your head, your whole spine crushes. Wow. So T11 and T12 and L1 were all compressed, and one of the vertebrae was cracked. Yeah. There was a crack in my pelvis. There was one of my knees was wrenched, but a lot of those smaller things I didn't know about until later because of the pain from the bigger injuries, kind of thing. Yeah. I had a dislocated elbow, a broken scaphoid in one of my wrists, and they thought I had a neck injury as well, but I didn't, which was great. I was lucky. So for them it was like, okay, she's got a broken pelvis, but we really need to stabilise the back. And I was very lucky that it wasn't worse than it was. I didn't have to have any back surgery to fuse anything together. But I did ask my orthopaedic surgeon. I said, okay, so because he used to treat elite athletes mostly in AFL and stuff like that with similar injuries. I said, have you ever had one of your athletes get back to the level they were at before the accident? He goes, no. And I'm just like, well, you know what, I'm going to try.
Is that where your drive sort of started?
Yeah, it was.
I'm going to do this.
And rowing, that goal, that actually got me through where a lot of other people will have fallen in a deep, dark hole. It was the only thing that actually got me through the rehabilitation and that recovery process, I think, was having that goal at the other side.
Just that full drive to get back to where you were.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
And it was mentally exhausting as well. Like it took a lot of mental energy. But anyway, 18 months later, I got back in the boat, and I really only had about 6 months of training before the selection trials started for 2008 Olympics, and I wasn't really up to speed because I just didn't have enough time. But I made the squad, the Olympic squad, and went to the trials, and they'd already earmarked the girls that they wanted for the Olympic boat, so the chances of me knocking them out were pretty, not great. So they run the lightweight women's quad at the World Champs in the same year. So I decided, let's try for that. So there was 4 or 5 of us or something in it, but anyway, they didn't select me. So that was that was early 2008. So, and all the guys in Tassie go, oh, you've got to come back next year. You've just got to do it again. And I'm like, you know what? I'm actually done. I was old as well for a rower. I was 34, I think. Yeah. Which is not young. It's a little bit different now, but even back then, like most of the girls were in their 20s, late 20s, and that. So your body doesn't recover the same. Not at that level. And even now, I find I can't ride as much as I would like to, and for as long as I would like to. Your body just gets older.
Yeah, and recovery takes longer, and the efforts take much more. I mean, the fact that you've come from where you were, and I'm sure you've got that drive pushing you mentally that's where you're going to get to, and I've got no doubt you've had days where it probably seemed like that was so far away if you'd had a good day or a bad day.
Yeah.
But to even get from where you were to get to any half normal stage to row again, let alone potentially making an Olympic boat, I mean, that's just incredible.
So I was very fortunate, and I don't regret being that part of my life at all. Like, there was some incredible highs, but there was some very low lows as well, and that's the nature of that sport. And it's I seem to respond quite well personality-wise to that type of thing. So trying to find something to replace all that was really challenging as well. But I guess I retired in 2008 from elite rowing and had always sort of done a bit of mountain biking and cycling. So I ended up moving to that and gave triathlons a go because I'm really crap at swimming. I thought, right, I'm going to try and get good at swimming.
Something new to take on.
Trying to fill that big gap that was left.
Yeah.
And then also picking up my life, because at this point I'd also decided to not continue with my legal career.
Right.
So working out what I wanted to do, because everyone's got to pay the bills, like life goes on. So I spent time just doing retail, whatever, to pay the bills until I worked out what I wanted to do, and ended up retraining as an interior designer and garden designer for a start, and then did a postgrad diploma in building design, part-time distance learning, which took me about 4 years. I finished that about 3 years ago, I think it was. So now I'm a full-time building designer / architect, if you like.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest, the biggest thing that I took out of that accident, life-changing experience, was life is so short and you get caught up sweating about the small stuff, and everyone says don't sweat the small stuff. It's hard not to a lot of the times, but I reckon it's really important to live your life, to the fullest, and because you don't know how long you're going to be here for. Yeah. And do stuff that makes you happy, because if you're happy, generally the people around you are happier as well. And it's there's so many things out there and so many people out there that have got great stories, and I think it's important to be really happy.
I totally understand. I was going through something fairly recently, and we talked about it before the show about how, you put these, these pressures on yourself and these expectations on yourself, and it's great to set goals and it's great to have things to aim for, but you don't need to set too many of them or set the bar too high sometimes. There's times to do it and there's times not to do it if it's not going to be for your own benefit or the people around you. You can take a bit of that pressure off, and it's better for you, and it like I said, it's better for the people around you as well. I find, sometimes you have this high expectation for yourself, but you kind of always have it for the people around you as well, and it's
that's something that's really hard to
not the best thing to do sometimes.
Deal with or manage as well, like identifying those types of issues, and then is half the battle, and then trying to manage them as well is the next sort of part. And you tend to do it to the people you love the most, obviously, and the ones that are closest to you. So it becomes, it makes for an interesting life, that's for sure.
It's good to know that you never stop learning. Yeah, and that's the joy of the process and the things that you aim for, and you still have things that you said your times are never going to get better. Like as you get older, I know a lot of other people have sort of said, look, we know that our times, we're never going to beat our PBs as we get into sort of, a bit older, but just the fact that you're out there doing it is still giving you what you need, and you're still fueling yourself and giving yourself those good feelings of being out there and enjoying it for what it is, more than just, the drive to try and push your times. Yeah, and I still personally have a lot of that. Like I'll always go out and try and beat the clock, but I'm probably not as hard on myself when I don't. And it's interesting for me, and I think a lot of solo sports like running, ultramarathons and all that sort of thing, it's great being in a team, but there's so much satisfaction when you're doing it on your own, when you do get what you want out of it, like winning a title or getting a PB and that, because you've done it on your own and it's all you. Mm-hmm. But conversely, when something doesn't go to plan, the lows are really low as well. You've got no one else around you there to help you back up.
But it's certainly, I believe it's made me it was pretty shit going through that experience, but I believe it's made me a better person in that, what, in some respects, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah. And it just makes you appreciate life and people in it and what's important or what you should make important in your life as well.
I've heard so many people say it, that when they were right in that moment trying to break into a side or to perform at their highest level that they know that they could do, they said, I just really needed to give myself a break, cut myself a little bit of slack and enjoy that time for what it is as well.
Yeah.
And you find that when you're happier, you're more relaxed, and it sort of comes a bit more naturally than just being so focused and, trying to get it out there.
Yeah, and living in the moment as well. Like a lot of the time you're actually looking forward to the end result instead of enjoying the actual process for what it is, because that's part of the deal.
And that's where you spend most of your time,
right?
Is in that process.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, why get so serious and look forward to a race if you don't like the training side of it? You're going to have up and down days. You're going to have days where you don't feel great. But I mean, if you're not enjoying the process and the training, I mean, that's like 99% of what it's about.
What are you doing it for? Yeah, sort of thing, exactly. So it's kind of like the race at the end is the reward for all the training, but it's the process that's important. It's the same with life. It's, there's not much fun at the end of life. You've got to enjoy the living. Big time.
Well, we are talking about how there's so many things in athletics and sport that you can flip over to real life, and that pushes you through. I no doubt going through uni, like you said, you made 1 in 4 people. You were that 1 in 4 people. I got no doubt that a lot of that drive and that ambition came from how much you're willing to push yourself athletically. Yeah. And then changing over to a complete another career later in life.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just, once you've got that sort of spark and that drive, you can put it into anything.
Yeah, and that's, like we were talking about before, like a lot of those skills that you learn in whatever physical pursuit are transferable to every day. And work ethic is the big one. Like you can tell by someone's work ethic, I think, a lot of how they've lived their life and what they've done in it and things like that as well.
I've got 2 little girls, and this young, one's 6, one's 3, nearly 4, and you push yourself, and I've pushed myself really hard to get more active and to be fitter and to lose weight. And you come out the other side quite resilient because you know what you've done and what it's taken to get there, and it's hard, and you've got to be a little bit not strict on yourself, but you really have to kind of push yourself that bit. Yeah. But then, I've got these 2 little girls that need nurturing and care, but I also want them to build a bit of resilience as well and some skills that they can take later on into life. And I think achieving things, like you say, building your confidence up through sports and athletics is such a great skill, because they're not going to pick it up the first time round. They've got to work hard and practice to get better.
I think you're right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's really important to try, even though you might fail, because I don't believe there's anything worse than looking back in 5 years and going, oh, what if? Because you'll never know. But at least if you try and fail, or you've tried, you don't necessarily like the failure part of it, but and you can move on to do other stuff. And
most of the time, the failure is where the learning is.
That's exactly right.
Injuries. Yeah. I thought I knew everything about running when I started. And then I got injured, and then I started learning. And I thought I knew everything, and now it's like, man, I knew nothing. And I still know very, very little, but you know that you know what you don't know, I guess.
Yeah, and injuries are so frustrating. I remember having Achilles tendonitis for really like 6 months, and every time you're just like, oh, I'll just go, it feels so much better now, I'll just go for a little run, like 10 minutes, and then it'll just flare up again. It's just like, oh, it's so frustrating. So you learn so much about yourself and how to manage yourself, and that's all transferable to real life. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and you said before about not taking it so seriously and not being so hard on yourself. I found since I've brought that back a notch as well, you've got that sort of care and support for the kids as well. Like, you don't have to drive them all the time to get back up and dust yourself off. There's a time for that, and then there's a time, okay, they've had enough. I need to give them a hug and tell them that what they've done already is fantastic and that they're doing really well. So
I think kids are a really good leveler like that.
Oh, man.
Like, because they haven't had real world, there's no pretense, or it's just, for them, when they say it, it's how it is.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know, and I reckon that real levelers, they keep your feet on the ground.
Definitely. And I've seen it where you're watching them work it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And then they'll tackle it, and they'll climb. We've got little ropes set up the back. My oldest one loves gymnastics, and it's been so good for her confidence. And we've got little rings and bars up the back that she can swing on, and I just tied a rope up to the roof the other day, and she can climb straight up it and get to the roof. And I'm seeing that come out in her confidence as a person. Yeah. And I just can't stress enough how important that is. I did a level 1 coaching course to sort of start going towards run coaching. Yeah. And half the class was almost young athletes that wanted to put back into their club. And almost exact other half of the class were all people my age and probably older that weren't professional young athletes who have picked it up later in life but want to add a skill set so they can help other people. Yeah. But I was so impressed with the young athletes that were in our classes. Yeah. Just the way they carried themselves, and they had confidence in themselves, and they were really great young people. And it's through sport and community that they've got that. So I really want to get that into the kids, is having that confidence to take into life.
Yeah, I think it's really important as well. I think it's a really good balance, and it's an all-round thing. Like, you can't have one side of it. Everything bounces off all these other facets of your life, and that's like work-life balance and family and all the rest of it. All the good stuff reflects in other areas of your life.
Yeah, and you're feeling good about yourself, you're moving, you're getting those good feelings from moving, and the endorphins are getting released, and that just goes into everything else that you do. It's such a good mindset you get from regular movement and being out there enjoying it, for sure. Yeah,
it's really funny. I think we spoke about it before as well. It's like a lot of people are like, oh, you're mad. I see you out there riding ridiculous kilometres in the heat and 40-degree heat and all the rest of it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's probably a little bit of insaneness there. But you know what? It makes me happy, and it's my thing. And I do it more now for my mental health and physical health and well-being. Haven't competed for a few years now, 3 or 4 years or whatever. But just life. Things happen, you get busy doing other stuff, and competing takes up a lot of time, or training to compete takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, it sure does.
Mentally as well as physically.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, but you just, wherever you find happiness, find it and just do it, and if that's your thing, it is, and if it's not, it's not. So
and it gives you a reason to go to bed that bit earlier. Think, I'm going to go and go for an early ride. I'm going to go to bed early, or I'm going to only have a couple of beers tonight instead of having half a dozen. I'm just going to cut the visit, with the guys short and head home because I want to be right for tomorrow because I've set myself something for the weekend. And then you're putting yourself out there, and it's just so rewarding. Those
it is actually. There's nothing better than coming back from a ride or a run or whatever and feeling absolutely physically flogged. Yeah. Just sit on the couch for a while, and it's like, oh yeah, man, I feel great.
I've earned that.
I've earned that. Even though you probably can't walk because you're so stiff for a couple of hours or whatever. But and we're very lucky. I've been very lucky with my life, and I don't regret giving up those years to rowing, where a lot of my friends were having families and all the rest of it. But I'm also very fortunate to live where we live in Exmouth, where the roads aren't that busy. You know, I just basically walk out of my house and I'm on the road, or there's a mountain bike track just over there. And you talked about it before, like out the back of your house, there's, you know, tracks to go running and stuff like that. We're lucky that, and we made the choice to live in a place like this as opposed to a big city. But it is paradise. And
it's great. There's things here that you don't have elsewhere, like cyclones, and there's times where we've had our backyard and a lot of things destroyed from cyclones just after we moved here, and we got the house looking really nice, and we spent a lot of money, and you have those moments that try you, but
they do. Yeah,
I mean, I don't have to drive anywhere to go trail running. I've got multiple places. I think I've even spoken about it before. Just so lucky to have this, and then you've got the ocean, and there's so many people here for the ocean and the whale sharks. That it's the only place in Australia that they come past. So there is a pretty incredible variety here, and it gives you so much to get out there. And there's people aren't super busy here. It's a pretty relaxed way of living.
It is a nice way of living. It's quite interesting because until recently or last year, I used to work in the local hardware store, and a very social place because you get to know everybody and all the rest of it. And you'd have these visitors come and go, oh, do you go, you know, spear gun? Do you go snorkeling? Do you go diving? I'm like, nah, not really. Go out on my supboard every now and then. Oh, what do you do then? I'm like,
how can you live in here?
I ride bikes. But the thing is, we've got the choice. The ocean's there if we want. We don't necessarily have to be on it every day, but it's just so nice not being landlocked and having the choice to be out there if we want to. So, for sure.
Well, it's been great having you in to talk about stuff. Like you say, sometimes it's a bit hard when you're out and about and you're talking to people, and, you know, a lot of people love the boating and the fishing side of things. And when you do bump into someone that does something else and gets out there and you know, loves riding and running and stuff like that, it's really nice to catch up and have a good chat. So I've really appreciated you coming in and taking time out of your day to chat to me. It's been great.
Honestly, thanks so much for asking me. I just feel really flattered and humbled, actually, and it's been fun. Yeah, it's been a good time.
We speak to so many people, and like I've got people, Kirsty does this and that, and it's like, okay, no worries, but you know, if anyone, they're going to have a chance to have a listen now and see what it's all about and where it's been for you. So thanks heaps for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Incredible story from that drive early on to want to get to the levels and the sacrifices you make, and then to potentially have it all taken away, to come back from that, to get back to the level that you're at is it's just incredible. So thanks so much for coming in and telling us about it. I'm sure I'd love to get you in. I mean, we could talk for hours, so we can go off topic about all these other things. Yeah. But it's been really great. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Aaron, and your show's great. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of the podcasts, and I think it's awesome. So
thanks.
Best of luck with it.
It's one of those things you feel like you could quit so many times because, you know, of lack of qualification to put information out there, or who's going to listen. But like I say, if you never try, you're going to fail 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's it.
So you just got to keep going and keep it out there. Thanks very much.
Or die wondering.
Exactly. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No worries.
Right, thanks very much. We'll talk again soon, hopefully. All right. Well, there we go. Another solid episode in the books. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Really great to have Kirsty in the show. I know I say that all the time. It's really great to have guests on board, but I approached Kirsty when I saw her in town, having heard a bit of her background, and she was just so accommodating to not only talk about just everything in general that we pretty much covered in the episode, but you know, her story, what she'd been through, and was just so willing and helpful and great for us to talk about all of the topics that we did. So I mean, I just can't believe that after something like that, that what she had been through, that having the determination and the will to get back not only to rowing and learning pretty much everything all over again for her body to push to get back to be available for Olympic selection. I mean, I just can't believe that amongst all of those odds and what people saying you can and can't do, that she just decided that that's what she was going to do and she made it happen. It's just a total credit to Kirsty, and I think it's really resonated with me, knowing, having a background of doing things and being in a situation where I never thought I'd be and achieving things that I probably never thought I would actually be able to achieve myself, even not to those levels. Achieving something you set out to do is just, there's just so many great things that can come from that. And doing things you never ever thought you'd be able to do is just such a powerful thing to give yourself in life. And once you overcome some hurdles and you I guess achieve challenges or take on tasks and succeed, you see things and you see the world in completely different ways to what you did before. So if you have something you've always wanted to do and you've set a task that just seems impossible, the best thing you can just do is just to make that real, and put it in front of you and aim for it, and just have small targets along the way to achieve those things. And what comes after that is pretty fantastic, and it's a great thing to have, and for yourself, not only for yourself but for your family and your people around you, because you just have a lot more confidence in tackling things, and you can take that into life and in all different aspects of life. So glad that Kirsty came in to sort of share her story and that message as well. I'm just really grateful, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did, sitting and talking. We spoke for hours before and after the show, and really stoked to have that one out there. So look, hope you guys enjoyed it. Great to have you all back again. I'm so lucky that the feedback and the people that have listened have got back to me with their thoughts, and that it struck chords with people, and it's got people into things and got people moving. The people that need it, they're getting it. So thanks very much again, everyone, for tuning in. I look forward to speaking to you again real soon. I've got really working on some more great guests lined up to come on as well, and I can't wait to share them with you guys throughout the season and this year. But if you need any more info or you want to leave some comments, check out the Instagram page at the Inner Expeditions Podcast. Leave some thoughts on every show. If we make a post and you like it, don't be shy to please leave a message on the post for that show. Send me a message with any of your thoughts. We might have thoughts of later on in the year doing a show where you guys can just send in some questions. If you're interested about anything about other shows or myself, please, we might start thinking about sending in some questions, and I'll try to get them answered for you if that's what you want to do. Also, if you want to support the show in other ways, you can make small contributions through the show's Patreon site. Just go to patreon.com/Inner Expeditions, and I'll get some options up there if you want to do support the show, and just say thanks in a small way to let you know that you appreciate what I'm doing. So always appreciated everyone for tuning in. Hope wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, you've enjoyed the show and it's put you in a good place to finish listening to the episode and have some quiet thoughts about what you're up to. So until next time, it's great to speak to you again, but I look forward to real soon to chatting again soon. But for now, I'll see you later.